In this world today, everything is perfect. Well, except for little Johnny over here, who is suffering from abuse. Or Susie, who has terrible body image problems. Or maybe even Timmy over here, whose home life isn't the perfect picture. Maybe the world isn't as perfect as we thought. In order to begin our investigation as to the causes of depression, we had to ask how many people knew someone who was depressed, or if they themselves were depressed.
I used to know someone with depression.
I know quite a few teens who suffer from depression.
I know a couple of people who like to think that they're depressed. Yeah, I do.
I know a lot of people who are depressed, and I'm actually one of them.
In a survey conducted at Ursuline College in Chatham, 40% of boys 13 to 19 became depressed when their parents were divorced, 50% of boys were depressed when their grades were lower than expected, and 40% of girls are often depressed when their parents were divorced. After finding these stats and finding how many people knew someone with depression, we decided to speak to one of the school's guidance counselors, Mr. Estuesta, on the matters of depression amongst the teen community.
Okay, I mean, we get a lot of students who are stressed out at different times of the year, like midterms, so final exams. Christmas can be a stressful time too, and again, that leads to possibly leading to depression too, because if you think about Christmas, sometimes there's some bad family situations out there. So some students are, if you want to call it, stuck with their family for 2 weeks, right? And that can be really tough. But students might say that they're stressed, but maybe they've got more than that. Maybe they're more depressed too. So so they might come in for one thing, and then we might have, maybe it's more than that too. So there's a whole wide variety of issues. I mean, depression is one of those issues where students come to us and are asking for help. I mean, there's a lot of other things that they come to us for help, whether it's family issues, those kinds of things. But sometimes a lot of them are interconnected too. So some students get really stressed out, let's say for exams or things going on at home, those kinds of things. And then that leads to possibly leading to depression after that too. So those are kind of the issues that we work with around here. I guess our first advice is that they should get help, whether it's, I guess mostly it's talking to somebody about it, whether it's a friend, but then that friend should contact somebody else who can handle that situation. I always think that, I'm guessing that, because I've never been depressed, but I think it's really tough to handle that alone. There's a lot of ways where, and again, if you're talking about depression and stress and those kinds of things, yeah, there's a lot of ways that students cope, and sometimes they're not the most productive ways to cope. So, I mean, obviously coping and getting help, those kinds of things, that's what we're looking for. But if you go to other cases, for sure, lashing out at people, yelling, screaming, tantrums. I mean, if you go to more extreme cases, students cutting themselves. And then the ultimate, obviously, would be suicide. So all of those things are, those are really, again, tough ways of coping with things. And unfortunately, some students or people think that that's their only way out. But like I said, we always want them to get help first, and then hopefully we can get the help that they need.
Now, talking to a professional in this matter was a good starting point. We need to get out of the hustle and bustle of the big city of Chatham and venture into the small community of Blenheim, Ontario. For a more personal view on the matter, we decided to talk to a good friend of mine. Here, we would talk to Melanie on several occasions and get her views on the subject of depression.
Well, it was like pretty much the darkest time I had, and I'd still say it was still here today, right at this moment. Whenever somebody brings some topic up that I have purposely forced out of my mind, it is very tough. The people I've told have actually tried to help me through it. I haven't told anybody that didn't matter to me or has confronted me about it. I just think about the things that make me happy, and then I just think about all the people that are around me and how they'd feel if I was gone. I definitely wouldn't say the cliche phrase of, oh, it's gonna get better. I seriously hate when people say that to me, because it doesn't magically get better.
After our last interview with Melanie, we were thoroughly impressed with the type of responses she gave, so we decided to come back for a second round of interviews. In this round, we would talk more about other people besides her to get her opinion on how to help and how to share her views.
It could be anything. It could be a traumatic experience, like kids go through the whole relationship thing. Then that's a whole nother subject, the difference in relationships now. And it's just hard for them now. Let's say that they don't really speak out loud anymore, and it's more so just typing it to somebody or texting it to somebody, and it's not getting out in their feelings. Like, you can't portray feelings through writing. It's just not possible. I think it's made it worse because they're just keeping it all balled up inside. And kids nowadays don't know what to do with that extra feelings. I guess it would be unrealistic to say look for the signs, because sometimes it's not that easy and it requires a lot of close observation. Like, just because I've been through it, I kind of see that somebody is not happy. But for a teacher or somebody, or another even close friend, it's really hard for them unless the person actually says something to them. Just tell somebody before it gets out of hand, I guess.
Well, this I was in Blenheim. I stopped by at my very good friend Matt's house to see if I could have a chat about his ventures with depression. But we decided to go for a drive, because at home it wouldn't have been secluded enough for our interview. Here's some of the conversation we had, which ended up being more than 40 minutes. We talked about many things, some of which Matt had never spoken about before. He may seem a little bit nervous, but we just have to accept his feelings on this and allow him to speak.
I'm Matt Wickham and I suffer from depression. I don't know, it's kind of a thing where I just pretend I don't have it. On a scale of 1 to 10? Well, it depends on the situation and day, and I don't know, maybe sometimes it can get to like a 8. A 9 being rash decisions, and 10 I guess being the rashest of decisions. But I've considered it, I've never actually done it. Like, I think about it. Oh no. It's kind of a difficult time to say this, but just say I'd be driving, right? I was like, oh hey, that looks like an interesting thing to drive into. I wouldn't say considering it, but definitely thought about it on multiple occasions. And I think the more that I'm depressed, the more I think about it. It's kind of scary, but I don't think I'll ever commit suicide. I think it's not for my own self-preservation, but for the sake of my parents, like my mom. That sounds kind of wrong, but I feel like I would just devastate her if I killed myself, so I couldn't put her through that. There are a lot of things. Like, a main thing, there's such a higher rate of divorce now, and I know that without having both parents, that would be so difficult. I have both my parents, and I couldn't imagine. Like, there is a little bit of dysfunction in my family, but nothing too serious. Like, my parents fight, but I think all parents fight. Yeah. Other things could be, it's just that we're having more chemical imbalances. I don't know why that would be. Maybe a lot of wrong nutrition, because a lot of food now is processed and it's terrible for you. A lot of it is my weight, I'd say, but I'm not too sure. It could be a chemical thing. I've never really went too far into it because I just kind of didn't want to deal with it anymore. Definitely society has a huge play on the way we're supposed to act, look, feel. Like, in society, a part of it would be how we're supposed to feel. Everyone, apparently a perfect person, oops, sorry for this hard stop. Anyways, a perfect person is supposed to be happy all the time, successful, healthy, great body, and do well in school, have some awesome talent that you can just do all the time, but no, it's not the fact. A lot of people struggle in school, some people struggle with weight, some people struggle with happiness. Like, it's actually, in some people, depression is a chemical imbalance, like I said, where you have zero control over how you feel. There's just a lack, or in other cases, too much of a certain chemical in your brain that causes you to feel different ways than you should. Like, I know some people, one of my friends has depression, and it's where he has a lack of serotonin in his brain, which is a chemical that makes you feel happy, and he has to take Prozac, actually. Oh yeah, dating and relationships in teens, as great as they are, they shouldn't happen. Like, I can't say they shouldn't happen, but if they don't happen, that'd be okay. Because it pulls a lot on your emotions. As a developing teenager, you get all these strong feelings for people, or a certain someone, and you don't know what they are, you haven't been able to understand them because they're new to you. And they're so strong at first, because as a developing teenager, you just don't fully grasp the concept of these new feelings. As if you're older, you would have had them for longer, and you know how to deal with them, and you know what they mean, and so on. But also in relationships, it's great to start one, but when they end, it can be devastating. It can put people into depression for a little bit, or it could, if you're depressed, it can really hinder the ability to, just say, manage a healthy relationship. Because depression, for me, it makes me not want to talk to people and open up. And just say if I'm in a relationship, it's really hard to talk to the other partner in the relationship. And they'll get frustrated and not understand why and just think you've lost interest. But really, the last thing you want is for them to leave you and feel that way. Definitely talk to someone. Never start feeling depressed, or if you are depressed, the worst thing you can do is dwell on it and sit by yourself. You have to keep moving, talk to people, whether it be your parents, doctor, teacher, guidance counselor, boss at work. But if you ever start feeling depressed, it's the best thing you can do is get help, or just talk to someone about it, try and move past that problem. Or sometimes you don't even know the problem, so you can also talk to a therapist. And therapists are great at identifying problems and helping you cope with problems, understand them, get past them, and just deal with them. Yes, I think therapy is definitely better for people who want help, but if you are forced to go see a therapist and you won't open up and you won't listen, there's no point in going, because if you're not going to hear what they have to say, then there's no point in going for them to say anything. But if you do want help and suggestions and ideas from therapists and help move past it, they're great. Like, they know the perfect things to say, they know how to cope with things. Some therapists can prescribe you things, and yeah, it's not always the best thing to go on meds right away. You should always learn how depressed you are and how much you would actually need them, because they do change your personality a lot. Because I know some people that used to not be on them and take them now. I'm not saying that they're a bad thing, they're a great thing for people who actually need them. But it does change your personality a little bit. Like, throughout different situations, they react differently, and you can tell their thought process is a bit changed, but that's it. The change in season, there's actually a depression disorder called SAD. I think it's seasonal affectionate disorder or something along those lines, where in the winter people, because due to the decrease in sun and vitamin D, I assume, you become much more depressed than you would be in the summer. Because in the winter there's a lot less light, you go outside a lot less, so you're inside, you're not outside breathing fresh air, and yes, seasons definitely affect your depression. Whereas in the summer you're out a lot, you're moving around, you're getting your blood flowing, more oxygen and light. And I'd also say in the summer you can socialize more because you're able to go out with friends and socialize more. Social networking and electronics. Yes, they can be a great thing, but just say Facebook. Some people actually, not some people, a lot of people have lost their ability to socialize within close groups and with people. And by that happening, they can only really talk to people through texting and chat, which actually brings me to the other topic, texting. We have lost a lot of face-to-face interaction, which also I believe to be a big contributor in depression. So I was reading this I was watching this informational video about looking into someone's eyes. It actually releases endorphins, which cause that positive, happy feeling to happen. So just say face-to-face interaction and you're talking to someone, looking in their eyes, it actually makes you feel happier. It's pretty funny. You can grow affectionate towards that person. If you ever want to look up the video, it's by Vsauce on YouTube. So I'd say the face-to-face interaction does play a huge role in depression. Well, not a huge role, but it does play a role. And it's very important to talk to people. If you're just texting, that's just a feeble attempt at socialization. Music, for me, is a great way for me to just feel relaxed or feel happier or better in a dark situation. Because it allows me to think, and some songs, mainly techno for me, is a great thing for me because it just makes me feel happier when I listen to it. I know some songs do that for different people, but for me it just makes me feel so much happier, and I don't even know why. I think depression is both situational, personal, and developmental. Yes, there's like three things. It's all about, it's your brain that affects your depression, it's how your life is that affects your depression, and then what happens to you that affects your depression. There could be a major reason why someone is depressed, but I think it's always more than one thing that plays on your depression. That's my opinion.
Well, here I am, man behind the curtain. You know how it is. Usually on the other side of this camera, but I thought for the film at hand, this would be pretty important here, just to talk about my experiences in depression and suicide, ultimately. So, without further ado, let's get into this interview. Yeah, I'd say relationships play a major role in depression, and ultimately anything that you use to cope especially the bad ones. I mean, some people can have a great relationship with their family, like siblings, parents, but if a child does not have friends, it's a big warning sign that they could be leading to depression, even if they're not showing it outwardly, which is something that I personally did. My depression was at its highest state back when I was in grade 8, around that time, and darkest period of my life. I was just coming into my adolescence. I was a teenager, if you can call it that, a teeny bopper of sorts. And I was just, it's a time when kids should be coming into their own. I was dealing with things that no kid should have to. Some of those things I experienced growing up were like, just the harassment of other kids. For 10 years, I was in the same class. I'd be bullied and picked on by the same 32 people for 10 years, and it was really tough. I had really low body image. I had like no friends, and the ones I didn't really treat me the way a friend should. They would make fun of me. They would call me stupid and stuff. And because of that, I got this whole complex going on that I wasn't worth anything to anyone. In fact, people had told me that if I were to die, they wouldn't care, and that really got under my skin, and it really hurt me a lot, and it's something that I still think of today. And it comes back to me, and that's where I always get in my head, maybe I'm not worth anything, maybe if I died, no one would care. And of course now it's easier to deal with because I have more friends, which I didn't back then, as I said, and not many people are harassing me that much. Still, I do have to deal with some harassment, but as I come into my own, I'm definitely not experiencing that as much anymore. I barely survived growing up. In order to get through all the feelings that I had, I didn't know I had depression at that point, but I would do stupid things that I don't recommend anyone does, and my rationale behind it was not the best. I used to cut, and I used to think that when I was cutting, the cut was the problem, and that as I watched the problem fade away or the cut heal, the actual problem was going to go away. Which, in hindsight, probably sounds really stupid to hear, but it's how I felt at the time. Besides that, another bad thing that happened, this was the worst. I had decided I was going to take my own life, kill myself, suicide, whatever you want to call it. It's nothing to be proud of. It's disgusting, horrible what I was going to do. I had gotten everything ready. I was going to hang myself. I'd made a note. I had the chain that I was going to hang myself with, and I was going to do it in my closet. I guess the one thing that really did end up saving me from myself was meeting my good friend, which is something that is just the most fantastic thing in the world when you don't have any friends growing up. His name was Ewan Marshall. He moved to Canada from Scotland, and he was really amazing. He made me feel like I was a friend to him, and that's something that's just fantastic. This was during grade 8, and sadly after grade 8 he had to move back to Scotland, and we haven't gotten a chance to see each other since. But what he did was one of the most fantastic things that's happened to me in my life, because without that happening I wouldn't be alive today to share this story and all these other people's opinions on this story. Without him. What he did for me was he would just come and hang out with me. He would call me. He would make sure that I was doing all right. He would ask me how my day was, which is something that was new to me. No one really cared about how my day was. And that just made me feel amazing, knowing that someone did care and maybe I was worth something. A small act is all it takes to save someone's life, and it was definitely one of the smallest of acts that saved mine. The advice that I give to other people who are suffering from depression: don't do what I did. I was stupid. Don't just wait, because sometimes things don't happen. You know that old expression, good things happen to those who wait? It's not true in this case. Probably I could have ended up killing myself had I waited longer and someone didn't come into my life. If I didn't seek help or just talk to someone about my problems, I most definitely would have been dead. But luckily that did happen, but someone else might not be as lucky as me. Battlefield, we fight for order. I know together we can be stronger. So why do I feel so alone? Come together and be as one. Sooner we get to the end, the sooner we're done. Now don't you try and tell me that I will be okay. Trust me, I won't be alright. I won't be alright. The cellar door is closing, the beauty is gone. All of these people can't be wrong. I'm still not happy, so I'll give you this song. Come together and be as one. The sooner we get to the end, the sooner we're done. Now don't you try and tell me that I will be okay. Trust me, I won't be alright. I won't be alright. Devastate me, leave me burning, spit on my feet. Take the time to prove to me I'm worth a defeat. I do not care to understand just why you are gone. Just think of me and sing the song and I will be alright. I'll be alright. Come together and be as one. The sooner we get to the end, the sooner we're done. Now don't you try and tell me that I will be okay. Trust me, I won't be alright. I won't be alright. I'll be alright.